Howdy gang, thanks everyone for coming out. I'm gonna start with this. Don't stare at my tits. Look me in both eyes at once. We're being filmed. Haters gonna hate. When you stare death in the face, go ahead and hate. Imagine a world where women have mustaches and men don't talk back. Now I'm gonna have my friend Rochelle Oligaris come up, and she's gonna accompany this very short story on a gourd. The women were making tamales, so I had to leave the room. Go now, said Rosa. She had woken me with the clatter of dishes just moments earlier. Go, she said again, shooing me like an insect. Fine by me, I was happy to cruise. Saturdays were perfect for cruising, especially Saturdays in the beginning of autumn, days when the heat radiated out from inside us, the heat we'd stored all summer. I just needed a few more things: 3 cans of soda for energy, a jacket for inclement weather, a backgammon board for challenge, and my satchel of fireworks for excitement. I found my jacket and fireworks where I had left them in the room I shared with JoJo and Angel. The jacket was hung on a nail in the wall, and the satchel was hidden behind my toolbox. The backgammon wasn't where I last saw it. Oh, there it was, on the picnic table outside the back door. But JoJo and the neighbor girl were playing. Good for them. They could play all day. I went into the house, jacket and satchel still in hand. I entered the kitchen. The masa was there in large bowls, but no people. Where were the women? I opened the refrigerator and grabbed my sodas, still on the ring. What are you doing, dingo? Go. Okay, Rosa. I'll go. I'm just grabbing my soda. Rosa was fierce. I went to the back door, letting the screen door slam behind me. I hopped off the porch and leaned over the backgammon board. Uh-oh, JoJo. It looks like she's beating you. No, she ain't, Papa, said JoJo. Her voice seeped in indignation. I liked that about JoJo. She didn't let anyone put her down. She waited for the neighbor girl to move her pieces. Then she took up the dice. Where are you going, Papa? Everywhere, I smiled. The beach, the ocean, the mountains, the ruins. JoJo beamed back at me, then lowered her head and tossed the dice. I walked to the lean-to and found my trusty, rusty bicycle. I set my jacket in first, then the sodas on top. That way they wouldn't get all shook up. I put the satchel with the fireworks on top. I opened the gate and the neighbor's dog went to barking. Tell your parents to do something about those dogs, I called to the neighbor girl. See you later, JoJo. No answer. I closed the gate behind me, got on my bike, and started pedaling. The bike felt heavy. Thanks, bro. All right. Now I'm gonna read this poem that has this beat. If you talk about your art at the dinner table, girls would think you're a hoe. If you rag on artistic freedom while you serve food, girls will think you lack discipline, and they'll say it to your face. If you cut a straight line from your widow's peak to your butt chin right before brownie Sundays, girls will tear your face apart and poke your brain with silver spoons. All right, that one went pretty good. Now here's a few haiku. On the bridge to love, over the river of fear, I am selling bread. Coming and going, articulate arteries, voluptuous veins. Savor the body, seek corporal connection, while the getting's good. Fade in. In Austin, Texas, your stage costumes can double as casual wear. Tampon or tamp off, but any way you tamp it, rainbows gushing blood. When life gets me down and I don't know what to do, I go to the lake. As if by magic, if you're too lazy to think, it must be God's will. If you do fumble, try to regain possession as quick as you can. Hypnotize children, wrap yarn around wooden sticks, tell them that's God's eye. Bullshit gender roles, censoring our specialness, cramping our wild styles. Cowards and heroes, not mutually exclusive, nothing to die for. Throbbingest stillness. This lengthening of moments, excruciating. Thanks. And, all right. Here's a real short one. It goes like this. When the moon is full, it's difficult to imagine eternity waxing and waning. Now waxy and wavy, that I can believe. Alright? Here's one about riding the bus, a favorite theme of mine. Scourge of the century gets on the bus hollering. Scourge of the century searches for a seat. Scourge of the century murmurs something to the driver about the fare and he waves her on. And we watch as Scourge of the century searches for something in her large red purse. And it's like the page in the women's magazine when we get to see what's in somebody's bag and a little text blurb about each item and why it's there, with combs and scraps of paper and lipstick and deodorant and women's magazines and hand sanitizers and little coin purses and candy bars and personalized pens. Scourge of the Century offers no such explanation, so we go on inventing our own on her behalf, calling her names like Scourge of the Century as she unpacks her purse on the seats beside her. And she has the same crap as anybody else, but we watch Scourge of the Century where everybody on the bus can see. Look at me calling somebody Scourge of the Century before they even get on the bus, riding this dull clunker while Scourge of the Century yammers away. Thanks. All right, here's one about television. She is not the one to worry about. She is not the one talking smack. Her is. Her is waiting outside with her mouth full. She is not the one throwing shade. She is over and done with her. Her is still waiting, shivering in pajamas just outside the door. She is not the one to ask about. She is not the one with the remote. She is in there watching TV. Whatever he put on, she watches, and that makes her so angry. Her can't remember what she sees in him. And she and him sit in the flashing glow of the box, repudiating her mouthful, waiting in the grease of the night. All right. Guess y'all don't watch TV that much.
Yeah.
Neither do I. Here we go. Let's make it slower. All right. This one's about HEB, and it's an erotic piece. We're all adults here, right? We all shop at HEB, right? All right. When he spotted her palming mangoes, he knew she was the woman near the edge. He had to act fast. He was prone to excess. His first inquiry would investigate a possible desire to leap into the void, and his second would determine if she wanted his help. Ripening. Every minute. His voice was slow, like a stack of pages handed out one by one down a long table. The measured drawl curled as it fell. Even now, these fruit are ripening. This one is ripe, I think. She turned her chin towards him, and her tumbling hairdo followed. He smiled, showing his gold-rimmed front tooth, a distinguishing feature in the center of a small, docile face. His hairdo didn't exist. He didn't have any hair. She was playing along. This was their game. She had purple eyelids. She was an instigator. She loved a good sail. She didn't smile much. Her joys were dangerous things. Would you like me to show you how to tell if the fruit is indeed approaching its perfection? She almost sputtered at his dawdling delivery, but made her lower lip tight and smiled a shrug with her mouth. She turned to face him, setting a mango on the pile. He stepped around the pile, picking up 3 mangoes. Here. They reached for each other and crashed together like dough on flour. Her hands gripped his biceps. She was feeling for tone muscle matter. His hands charted the curves between hip and ass, and he found round, yielding flesh. Then her hands started to tug his head, and with it his face, to her neck, to her mouth, to her neck, to her chest, and he fondled her tits, which felt to him like mangoes should feel ripe. Other shoppers in the produce aisle went on locating items from their list. Only illiterate littlest kids stopped to gawk at the weirdos making out by the mangoes. Those little kids missed the joke. You see, there was a big sign above the mango pile. It said, "Ripe and ready, mango, 3 for $1." It wasn't the world's funniest joke, but they talked it over and decided that it was literal enough, and she went for it. A moment later, they were horizontal on the mango pile, side by side. The gold tooth was somewhere very near her lips, which were limber like pancakes and cool like pudding. His fingers were festooned with more gold, a class ring, the shape of Oklahoma, his grandfather's wedding band, all gold. They lay side by side, supported by a pile of mangoes. Most of the fruit wasn't quite ripe yet. She kissed him like she was leaving for work, and then she kissed him like she was leaving for vacation, and then she took her panties off. He pulled his moppy sweater over his head, and she climbed on top of him. Someone nearby grabbed a bag of onions, didn't even look up from her phone, and left. The produce clerk was in the deli talking with a new hire, presenting himself as a helpful veteran of the grocery business. The deli team member had locked her keys in the car while the engine was still running. She was beautiful in the traditional sense, and the produce clerk was an old school traditionalist. Reactionary sentimentalist, really. He was looking at her cleavage, just below a pendant that said, "Out of yo league." "Is it still out there?" asked the clerk. "Yes." "Is it still running?" "Probably." "What do you mean probably? It's either going to overheat or run out of gas." But meanwhile, on the pile of mangoes, our lovers went on with the business of spectacle and sex. She held a yellow fruit to his mouth, and he bit into it lustfully. She found a bunch of good and ripe mangoes, metaphors, she figured, for what she didn't care. And she bit it too, and then she rubbed it against them, publicizing the mango's sale. The tip of his slick, knobby cock was flitting against the sticky pink folds of her vulva. They were getting really messy. She wagged her eyes like little puppy ghost tails, like all the tails of all the littlest puppies with their tails snipped off, wagging in unison. Her eyelashes were apparitions. She held her breath for a count of 3, gasped, and held it again, tightening. He splooshed into her, covering the two of them with nectar, smushing fruit against them. When he came, he buried his face in her armpit. He unloaded his gack onto her belly and then just as quick smeared it up with his sweater. She held his head against her, below her breast, where he heard her lungs heaving like sandbags to the seawall. Somewhere in the act, he had bit her, way too hard. Neither of them remembered the chomp, but later when she saw the bruises in the mirror, she got mad as a hornet in a hula hoop. The team member who was supposed to be watching all 6 store cameras was on his phone looking at fishing boats for sale in the classifieds. It was a shame you missed the show. It was all for him. Or could have been. It might have belonged to anyone with attention enough to watch him fuck. Well, I guess we all witnessed it, in a way, by reading this little blurb about it. And that's how it will have to end, with us having read it and the team members and the children and the shoppers and the cameras still rolling. The spent lovers climb off the pile of mangoes and go about filling their cart with wine bottles, shaving cream, cheese wheels, and heat-sealed wraps of lamb. When it was good and crowded in the cart, with nobody noticing the orange's gunk on their skin and the frenzied looks in their eyes, they wheeled right out the automatic sliding doors. The sun glowered down at the thieves in heat. Thanks, y'all. Now I got a few more haiku, and that's my jam. All right, let's make it really fast. Can we tune the drums? Can we mimic rock and roll? Can we clench the bronze? Take us out to lunch. Finesse is about timing. Let us in the house. Cop cars at the mall. So savvy brutality. Conceited privilege. Informative speech. Persuasive interruption, satellite coverage. Aloe vera wife, deep breath. I now pronounce you oxygen husband. Some of my friends don't know who they belong to. Beats me, ask your friend. Rock around the clock. Loiter around the alarm, roll around the arms. Generous portions, gregarious hostesses, gift economy. Give something for free, prove there are some lunches. take what I can get.